I see that it started recording.
Here we go. We're back.
We're back.
Video number 2. I'm Jeanette Danelian, founder and executive director of Restore My Soul Ministries, joined by...
I'm Berta, and I'm the coordinator of Hope for Mental Health, which is a ministry at Monmouth Christian Church, and I'm a retired social worker.
Okay, so last time, video number 1, we started a conversation of the effects of everything that's going on in our world, and it's not just the U.S., although maybe the political scene is heated up here more right now. I don't know about other countries, but it's everyone has been affected by a virus, by civil unrest, by fires, by politics. And honestly, I would think if we haven't been aware of our mental health in previous times, there has certainly been enough change and chaos and uncertainty that I'm hoping everyone's aware of it. And that's one of the reasons I want to do these videos, is that to continue to raise awareness of mental health and how it affects us and what we can do about it, and kind of normalize some of it so that we understand what's going on, what's going on in our mind. Because I think if something is going on that people haven't experienced before, they may be wondering, do I have a mental illness? Do I need help? When do I seek help? When is it just normal and to be expected due to circumstances? Because I know I have experienced a wide range of reactions. So for instance, I've had increased sleep. There's days that I'm so tired I can't really function, and I literally go back to bed. I don't have a reason to get up. The motivation is gone. But then even in and that happened even in the summer, which I love summer and I love the light early in the morning. So for me to want to just get back in bed, I knew something wasn't right. But then on the other hand, I've had decreased sleep. So I can't stay in bed. It's like I wake up and I remember what's happening around us and my heart starts racing and I have to get up. It's like almost a panic. I can't stay there. So what do we do? Is this all normal and expected, or what's going on?
Well, I think it's normal and to be expected. We've known for a long time that people can only handle so much stress. And it's been like a hurricane of stress, all the things that you mentioned and more, with some people suffering financial losses and especially kids and young people whose school life and social life has been so disrupted. It's just a list of things. And there are days when you just think, can I handle one more thing? And some days the answer is no, I'm just going back to bed or I'm going to take a nap. Or perhaps it would be useful for people to just hear a brief definition of what mental illness is and what mental health is. So when we say mental illness, we're referring to all the diagnosable brain health disorders, which result in significant changes in your mood, in your thinking, and your behavior, and that result in having problems functioning and result in a significant amount of emotional distress. So conventional diagnosis by your doctor consists of looking at what's going on in your life plus all the symptoms, and then they come up with a diagnosis, and generally then we'll refer you to counseling or suggest that you take medication. There are more integrative approaches that just dig a little bit deeper in terms of really looking at your chemistry through labs, also actually looking at your brain through SPECT scans, among others. And then you can have a more individualized diagnosis and treatment plan. But it really comes down to being able to function, being able to participate in relationships, being able to be productive and do schoolwork or go to work, and being able to having enough resilience to adapt to and cope with stress. So bottom line is, what's your level of distress and what's your level of functioning?
Okay, because
And
I've heard people use words that would go along those lines. So yeah, I feel paralyzed, or I feel overwhelmed, or I've run out of bandwidth. Maybe that might have been
that's,
you.
yeah, well, I didn't invent it. I think that one's going around. It's like, yeah, I've run out of bandwidth. I just can't cope with one more thing or pay attention to one more thing. I'm in survival mode, and I just got to stay focused on what I can do. So yeah, it's just that. So now with even if you've been coping with life fairly well, and you're fairly satisfied with your life and you have good relationships, the amount of change is more than we're designed to cope with. And so if you've never had any mental health issues, then you are going to be scared, and you are going to wonder what's going on, and am I falling apart, and what's going to happen, what should I do, who should I listen to, all those kinds of things. And that is difficult. If you've already had some mental health issues, you may be fairly stable and coping, but this is bound to rock your stability, because it's just not usual. It's just so much stress. And then you have to really consider amping up the coping skills that you already have. If you're on medication, you may need to consider taking more. You may really need to look at, am I eating right? Am I exercising enough? What can I do to relieve this stress and help my brain function as best as possible?
It's
So
hard
it's very hard, especially when you're feeling exhausted or feeling extremely anxious. It can be hard. And then, that's when we all need more support, which is tough in a time when we're more isolated. And we're not designed to be isolated. We're designed to be in community. That's how God made us. And so the isolation just provides another challenge. I know for me, I sort of structure community into my life, because I'm frankly not very good at just reaching out just off the cuff. And so a lot of my activities were curtailed. And I'm just now, after 6 months and having some really ups and downs, going, okay, I have to commit to reaching out more. And so I've started doing that, and it really does help, reconnecting with friends that I haven't seen, making new friendships in my neighborhood, people that I've always kind of liked, but I never reached out to. So, that really helps. And certainly having people, everyone should have at least one person that they trust enough to really say, oh my gosh, this is what's going on, and I feel crazy, and I don't know what to do. And that's so essential in life, and especially now, just because things are so unusual.
Yeah, so I think you're hitting on some self-care kind of things we can do.
Absolutely.
But it's challenging, and that's where we do need the support and encouragement from others to continue
Yeah.
doing things. I was able to continue walking. In fact, I actually ramped up my walking since the virus hit, and actually out of a need to manage my diabetes. I need that exercise.
Mm-hmm.
But I have felt the benefit of walking, and that has certainly, it releases those hormones where you feel better
Mm-hmm.
overall, and then I'm feeding my soul. as I walk, because I'm always listening to a podcast or a sermon,
Ah,
something that is going to feed my soul
right.
spiritually
Mhm.
or in encouraging ways. And I think that has
Oops.
really helped me.
That was our 10-minute.
10-minute warning. Well, we're in
Yeah.
trouble. We're in
We're in
trouble.
trouble. God.
I hit something on my timer and we now have an hour and 1 minute left.
Do you want me to reset my timer for another 2 minutes or 5 minutes?
5 minutes. Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's see if we can keep under 5 minutes. I think we've covered a fair amount. Uh,
So the opposite of self-care would be self-medicating. So
right.
talk about that a little bit.
Sure. I think we all self-medicate in different ways. I've done some of it in overeating. Other people may either start or increase their drug and alcohol use. Self-medicating can happen with distraction, like, watching Netflix for 6 hours. It's like into a Netflix coma we go. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's all different ways. We're trying to take care of the distress, but we're doing it in ways that in the long run won't help us. We might feel a little better in the short run, but not in the long run.
Yeah. I think I've heard that pornography viewing has gone up considerably. That's a
Online gambling,
gambling, shopping,
shopping.
food. Of course, people you mentioned.
Yeah,
People have talked about the weight they've gained from the virus.
right, right.
Um, yeah. So there's things we end up doing actually, maybe not so consciously,
Right.
right? Because we're experiencing the distress, the anxiety, the and if we're not actually acknowledging it and intentionally addressing it through some self-care kind of things, we could end up self-medicating without a lot of awareness, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just a normal coping skill when we don't really know what's going on and we don't really know what to do, or we're too exhausted. I mean, I went into a little bit of a Netflix coma during that week of smoke. I just ran out of oomph. I just fell into some depression and I just was not moving very much,
Yeah.
because I'm so used to getting out for fresh air and walking. It's a big part of my mental health. And not being able to do that, and plus having some trouble breathing, I just fell into that and overeating. And
Yeah.
by the end of it, it's like, oh Lord, I am so sick of this. I can hardly wait to get back to my normal level of so-called normal level of functioning in this time.
Yeah.
And I
And
did, but it took me a week.
it was awful.
It was
Um, self-care. One other thing that comes to mind is gratefulness. And I heard a number of speakers talk about that through this time, that
right.
if we will take the time to literally write them down, 3 or 4 things at the end of our day that we are grateful for, that it actually does some changes in our brain.
It does. It
Is
absolutely does.
I've heard, you might know better than I, that our depression area of our brain is that same area as being grateful. So you
Hmm.
can't stay in both at the same time. One is going to lead you out of the other or into the other. So
Certainly helps. And
yeah,
you can, they've shown that on brain scans. So yeah, it's something that absolutely does work. I think we also I think one of the mistakes people make sometimes is to jump too fast to gratitude. I think sometimes we just need time to grieve. We need to let ourselves feel sad. We need to cry. We need to cry out to God. We need to share our grief with our friends about our situation. And then once you've sort of vented and let go a bit, then turning to gratitude will be a lot more real. It
yeah,
won't be a superficial thing. It'll be because now you'll have some room in your heart and your mind to actually look at those things for which you can be grateful. And then it's a really, really workable strategy.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because loss is really what we're dealing with, probably
Yes.
ultimately, right? And throughout all of
Including
these
loss of
things.
time. Believe it or not, we're down to 25 seconds.
Oh my goodness, we just can
We just like to
talk
talk
too
to
much.
each other. It's such a useful conversation. It's a good thing we're going to make 2 more videos, huh?
Maybe we'll make more, who knows?
Maybe we'll have to make more.
So do we want to scratch anything off our list here and wrap this up, and we can talk about some of these things later, or what are you thinking?
Well, I think it will be really important to talk about suicidal thinking, because why won't this stop?
I read there are disturbing statistics coming out of this whole experience. And when
There are, and
I read about opioid overdose deaths
yes,
in
yes,
April and May increased 70%.
yeah. The
That's,
data is not good. I mean, we are looking at what already was an epidemic of mental health issues in our country, and this pandemic is doing nothing but making it worse.
yeah,
So I guess since we don't have a lot of time, what I would say about suicidal thinking is that that is also normal. And it comes out of just feeling hopeless that you could feel better, that things could change. And
yeah.
so that's when it's absolutely important to reach out and share that with people and let them help you, because there's certainly plenty of crisis resources available. Um, and also for people to know that um, that it's okay to ask. In fact, it's important to ask. If you're worried about a friend who's deeply depressed or anxious or having whatever mental health struggle, and you're concerned, it is important and helpful, contrary to any myths, to ask somebody very directly if they're feeling like killing themselves or hurting themselves. Sometimes for people that's a huge relief that they're able to talk about it, and that can help them come out of it.
Well, when
So
they're caught in that thinking, it feels impossible to get out. And yet when somebody else inquires about it and they are able to talk about it, some of the power of that thinking is taken away.
right, and the stress of also the stress of keeping a secret like that, such a
Yes,
huge secret,
yes, yeah,
then you can maybe relax into some possibility.
yeah. I think we can probably revisit that a little and talk about it a little more.
Yes, it's a hugely important subject.
I think important today in this video is how we're dealing with all of the stress, and when it becomes unmanageable distress and that loss of function. You're saying those are the key determinators of when we should get some help,
Right,
and there is help
right.
available, whether
There is
that's
some help available.
more self-care intentionally, or whether that's actually visiting our doctor and getting help. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we pay attention to our physical needs and we go see a doctor, but there's some
Right.
kind of there's a stigma, there's something that
Mm-hmm.
makes us stumble when it comes to our mental and our emotional needs. You know, I just have noticed it takes more time to process. It takes some
Mm-hmm.
intentional time to just allow myself to sit and think about everything that's happening. I'm sure that's related to the loss and grieving that you're
Yes,
talking about too.
because yeah,
And important is that we process with safe people
yes, yes.
and take time for self-care. I mean, my
Mhm.
walking, there's days I just want to skip it because I don't want to take the time. It takes a lot
Right,
of time, and yet I know that it's important. It's become an
and-
important practice for me.
right.
And I love to
In some
remind,
ways, what? Sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in some ways, we need to lower our expectations. For example, it's more important to take that walk than it is to wash the dishes. The dishes can wait; they'll be there.
It has been an adjustment in priorities. It really
Yes,
has, to
yes,
allow time to take care of what my body and my mind need.
Mhm.
I like to remind people that Jesus practiced self-care.
Yes, he
A
did.
number of times he set limits and he said, I'm done here, even though there's people in line waiting to see me. He set good boundaries, he limited himself, and then he did what he needed. And that was usually alone time with
Uh-huh.
his father and a lot of
Right.
prayer.
A lot of
So,
prayer and time spent grieving.
yes,
You know,
yes,
you think of him in Gethsemane where he's just crying out and all of that. So
yeah. So bottom line, I think we're saying give yourself permission to take care of your mental
right.
health.
Yes, please
How's
do.
that for an
You're
ending?
important.
All right. Great talking to you again.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Look, thank you. I gotta remember how to stop this. Can't remember.
Yeah.
Um,